Hello friends, my name is Marines, and today I'm doing the Who Am I book tag. This tag was created by PBS Digital Studios for The Great American Read. The Great American Read is a PBS broadcast effort that was launched on May 22nd, and it's all about why we love to read. It leads up to a nationwide vote on America's favorite novel, chosen from a pool of 100 books identified in a national survey. I will leave links down in the description if you want to learn more about The Great American Read, but also so that you guys can vote at home for your favorite book. I remember when I saw this project announced on Twitter, I was super excited about it. I love that it's really about why we love reading and the books that we enjoy and consider favorites, and not necessarily like the best books. As for this tag, all of the questions are centered around your identity as a reader, so let's get to it. If your life were a book genre, what would it be? Boring? I'm gonna go with magical realism, and I think it's one part because that's what I would want my life to be, but also because I think there's this very analytical and almost navel-gazing aspect to magical realism that is my entire thought life. I love magical realism, and I love the way that it's grounded in these things that are very everyday and very relatable, and then it weaves the fantasy elements and the magical elements throughout that. I love how bright and lush magical realism is, but it doesn't shy away from like deeper and darker emotions because those are experiences for everyone. It is oftentimes very description heavy and very character focused, and again, right up my alley. What villain from a book do you most identify with? I'm going with the Marquess from The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherynne and Valente. I'm not good with villains at all. I'm not a person that loves to read about villains. I take villains for what they are within the story, and I can recognize a good villain as being a good villain within the confines of their story. I'm all about the pure heroes. I can take complex heroes too, but there's something just about a good hero that speaks to my soul, and so the villains in my reading experience are always second tier. It was a difficult question for me to answer for that, but I'm going with the Marquess because of what she represents within her story. The Fairyland series as a whole has a heavy theme of growing up, and we watch September grow up throughout the series and age up from about 12 to 17. In the first book, the main villain is the Marquess, and she very much stands in opposition to that. She's kind of there rallying against growing up. This series takes a hard look at fairy tales and the way that they can be very dark and very dangerous and very gruesome. And so September and the Marquess have both been treated badly by Fairyland in some ways. And so you get to see the way that September deals with that, and the way the Marquess is dealing with that, and the way that the Marquess is dealing with it, and the way that she is not wanting to grow up and to change and to move on. That's what makes her a villain, and that's what informs her decisions. So as much as I dislike that she is set up against my September, my beautiful precious baby, I really enjoyed what she said for the story. And who among us have not had those feelings about not wanting to grow up and the difficulties of facing adulthood and moving on and change? What protagonists are you most similar to? Obviously, I'm gonna go with the Austen heroine, and I don't know if this is wishful thinking, but I relate to Lizzie Bennet a whole lot. She's sassy, she's full of sarcasm, she's very observant, but she's also quick to judge, and all of those are characteristics that I count among my own. I'm gonna cheat though and say that I'll sprinkle in a little bit of Anne Elliot from Persuasion in there as well. Her desire to be useful is something that I can relate to, and I think it's what keeps me creating and wanting to stay busy, but also hopefully I have a lot of her quiet wisdom and like the good head on her shoulders. Now, if the universe could send me a hero with some amazing letter writing skills, that would be great. Which book did you connect with in the past but you no longer do? It took me a while to really think about this. There are a lot of books that I read when I was growing up that I still connect to, and there are a lot of obvious ones like The Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High that I enjoyed when I was younger that obviously I no longer do. That said, I'm going to pick kind of an obvious one and say Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. I discovered this book in the library, in the public library. I grabbed it, brought it home, had no idea what I was getting into, and my preteen self thought it was the best thing that I had ever read. It was like revelatory. I remember enjoying it, though I don't remember truly what it was about. I know what Judy Blume writes about, obviously, but I don't have specific memories about reading it. I do know that probably a year or two later, 2 at the most, I came across the book again at the library, and remembering that I enjoyed it so much, I checked it out again and brought it home to read, and I was mortified. In the transition from like preteen to full-on teen, I could not relate, did not want to read about. I could not believe myself that I had enjoyed and connected with it so much before, and just in the span of say 2 years, everything had changed so much for me that I just just could not. I imagine that if I read it now, it would be more funny than anything else, but just growing out of it by the span of a couple of years, it mortified me. What book that you recently read would you love to be a character in? I'm gonna go with Crazy Rich Asians by Kwan. This is an adult contemporary about a Chinese American woman who goes to Singapore with her boyfriend and meets his family for the first time, only to discover that they are very, very rich. It is such a fun book, and it is full of food and fun and glamour, and I would love to be a character in that book, just like experiencing everything. Like, I'm not sure which of those characters would need their like brown friend along for the adventures, but I volunteer. How do your reading habits show off your personality? I am such a mood reader. I can't set TBRs, even though I tried to at the very beginning of this channel. I quickly learned that I can't set TBRs because I just never know what I will be in the mood to read. I think that speaks to what an emotional person I am. Obviously, there are things that I have to do every day, and I don't get to wake up and ask myself if I feel like going to work and things like that, but I make up for it for just being very okay to listen to my emotions and my moods and a lot of my other choices. It's why I binge things. I will binge TV for a while and only watch TV or play video games very heavily or be in a very heavy reading mood. I also read very widely across all genres, and I don't limit myself to any category or any genre. I just read what I can get my hands on and what sounds interesting. I think this goes hand in hand with my desire for knowledge and my love of learning. It's the Ravenclaw and the INTP and the Enneagram Type 5 in me. I'm also introverted, so I love to spend time reading, and it helps me recharge my social batteries just being by myself and reading and having comfortable spaces to do that in. But I also really love community. It's just something about me that I love forming communities. I love talking about communities. I love talking about media, and I think you can see that in how I consume media. I do that for myself and by myself, but then I come on here and I share reviews with you guys, and I love talking to you guys about books because it takes a solitary activity and turns it into something that I can do within community. What book taught you something about yourself? The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I always give a shout out to this book when I'm talking about seeing myself represented in media. I first read this book in high school in excerpts in my Spanish for Spanish speakers class, and I didn't read the entire thing until in my 20s. This book taught me a lot about the importance and the value of seeing yourself represented in media, but also it let me process a lot of my own experiences. The main character, Esperanza, there's just a short mention in here of the way that she struggles with her name and having that mark her or other her in certain situations, and I just related to that so much. And I'll also mention The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. These are the books that I credit with really showing me how much I loved reading. I know there are books that I read before these, but my earliest memories of being consumed with the story, of rereading a story, of just loving something so deeply on that level was rereading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I reread that book many times before I discovered there was more to the series, and then I would take these books on family vacations. I reread all of them multiple times, and it's just something that it's what I tie to my early love of reading are these books. That's it for me today. I will put all of the questions to this tag down in the description because I would love to hear answers from you all as well. If you have read or want to read any of the books that I mentioned, or you want to talk any more about the questions or my answers, I would love to do so down in the comments. Again, check out The Great American Read, and don't forget to vote for your favorite book. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. I'm in.